Don't know why I'm even bothering. I don't know if it's gonna get much better than that. Poignant actually, because today I was going to talk about how we perceive the world, our perceptions of the world. You know, personal and individual perception of the world. Why? Because that's all the world is to us. That is the whole world as far as we're concerned. It's the only thing we know, mostly. I mean, depending on how you qualify any of those terms. But I might invite people to, as you're watching this video, be aware that you're watching and perceiving. And oh my god, there's a crab inside. I'll add a picture later. Yeah, be aware that your perception is your perception. I guess one of the key starting points is that the perception is not the world. You know, it's not the reality. But that doesn't mean that the things that we perceive and the way that we perceive things are not important to us. Because they are a part of us. In a way, they're who we are. They're like a reflection of who we are at the deepest level, or at all layers of who we are and of the world. But it's easy to get stuck in thinking things are the way they seem, thinking things are the way they are and the way that you experience them. And the more that you do buy into the idea that what you perceive is the reality of what you're experiencing, the more it kind of calcifies. And well, the more it proves itself, but also the less flexible it becomes, and the harder it seems to find another way to do life. But I'm not saying, you know, like in Buddhism, for example, it's like you should just completely let go of reality, of your perception, in order to achieve true reality or true insight and access the direct truth of the universe or whatever. Which is pretty all or nothing. And when faced with all or nothing, most people choose nothing. No, most people choose not to choose, and then you kind of just get stuck. But there's, you know, I think you can recognize that there is an absolute reality or a beyond of whatever your experience of the world is, while still living and acting in the world and in your perception. Because there's a reason that each of us perceives the world the way we perceive it. And that way is important to us. It's important enough to us that we treat it as everything. And it is kind of, yeah, like I said, it is kind of everything to who we are. It's the vehicle of being and expressing who we are. And it might seem like a paradox, but it's actually not. It's like, if you take it as the world, then it stops you from accessing both the really important subjective part of your perception and the absolute reality. Because you stop seeking the truth if you think you've already got it, which kind of most people do, and most people don't really look for more reality, more depth, or whatever. But I would like to frame it as like a visual language, or it's not just visual, but like a perceptual language that communicates your life to you. And that's the language that you understand, and that is why it's important to each of us. So important that we'll get into fights and end relationships and go to war over our image of reality. Although I think that shouldn't really be necessary, because if you can accept or recognize that it's important to you, but it's just you that it's important to. It's important just to your life, it's not important to everyone and everything in the world. Then you can kind of have both, and you can recognize that other people are having the same thing, it's just not, this doesn't look like your thing. And then you can also connect with people on the level of exploring and enjoying your world, your perception and understanding of reality, and your internal world through the way that you experience the external world, which we really don't have any proof that it exists, but that can be another topic for another time. But it's really everything is communicating something to you, and if you interrogate it, you can find that thing. Because everything is coded with your filter that you perceive the world through. And so, this is often expressed as a block to reality. And in some ways it is between us and absolute truth or reality. But that also means that it can be a passage or a gateway to finding more about reality, or getting closer to truth, or however you want to frame it. Because it's constantly giving us information. That information has to be based in something, some truth. And so if we can decode the way, the code, the puzzle, the way that it is representing, and in other words, distorting reality in order to communicate it to us, then we can get closer to what is on the other side. But I've been thinking about this idea, this quantum physics idea, that everything just exists in potential until consciousness gives it, or pushes it into a form, collapses it into a form. And if that is the case, then it's the way that you interact with what you're already perceiving gives you the opportunity to change what you're perceiving and also perceive something different. Of course I believe that this tree and this post and this wall are there. And how could that not be related to the other, the structure of everything else that I experience in my life? Because it's a language. Everything in the system depends on every other thing. So I can't just be like, okay, I don't believe in the wall anymore, it's not there, but keep all my other, ego limitations and personality limitations, all the things I believe myself to be, all the things I'm attached to and that I want to be or I want to achieve or covet, I think people often want the convenience of what they think they might achieve through spiritual development without having to let go of some of the other things that they're stuck on, which is effectively problems. Like, people are attached to their problems because they are part of reinforcing this idea of self, which I think it seems to me is a necessary blockage or a necessary limitation that gives us the reason to explore and struggle or strive for something to really get into what meaning is and what reality is. But it's an interesting game to play with yourself, to just look at things around you and be like, well, is that there, or what if it wasn't there? What if I am just producing it for the purpose of this journey or struggle that I need to go through for my own self-education? Well, there's two sides, but what does it mean and how can I play with it? Like, you kind of have to look at the image of your whole world, like a broader perception of your world, to start even getting into what kind of meaning there is in things being set up a certain way. But if you actually think about the mechanics of consciousness interacting with potential, it's going to sound a bit technical, but it's like things being spatialized into a certain structure by whatever the resonance or pattern or rhythm of your consciousness is, which is why it brings us back to meditation and qigong and real yoga or pranayama and stuff, like real deep spiritual practices, because that's where you actually get into yourself and into the actual rhythm, and not into these external projected spatialized imagized versions of that rhythm. Because if you're trying to interact with things as if they're out there, who knows if you're going to get the feedback that you're looking for. But if you are just observing out there, but mostly interacting in here and testing the response of different ways that you try and change your rhythm or pattern or frequency, I think it seems that is the quicker route or more direct route to both understanding more and having more influence over your life. But it probably is scary to think about maybe the world that I believe to be everything isn't even anything, Because what will we do? Like, everything we rely on for our sense of stability and safety and comfort is embedded in that belief in materiality. Well, not everything, but like most of the things, probably everything we recognize. Though I would say that if you can detach from that a little bit and connect to the sense of stability and comfort, the deeper actual sense of it, not the projected, objectified attachment version of comfort. Like your mum's milk or your mum's embrace or the womb, things like that even. Then I think you can go beyond. I think that is the purpose of one of the goals of meditation, is to go beyond that belief in and reliance on the world. Because if the actual reality of that comfort and all the other things that we experience is in the consciousness, and we're just using this visual or perceptual charade or parade or performance to communicate to ourselves what is happening or could be happening in that consciousness. Then ultimately there's really no need to go to such lengths, or to, it's like a roundabout way of getting to the same thing. If you can just access pure comfort or pure fulfillment, or pure empowerment without it having to be run through these like external circuits like money or having a home or food or friendship or partnership. Not that I'm not condemning these things, it's hypothetical. And I think we can kind of have both in a way as well. Because I think obviously we want the positive and comforting and reassuring, stabilizing parts of all these things that we engage with in the world. And we don't want the challenging, soul-crushing, heartbreaking elements of them. But I think it's probably actually the other way around, or like we get drawn into experiences because of what we want, but then what we're actually trying to achieve is through the challenges anyway. So it's kind of like the actual goal is in the challenge, but we just need the motivation. Why? I wonder why. But anyway, yeah, we need this layer of, like the carrot on the stick to get us motivated to go into these semi-soul destroying or ego destroying experiences. Actually, when I was on my training in China, I started exploring this a little bit and experimenting a little bit. With this concept of frequencies, which for me I got from, everyone's kind of talking about frequencies and vibrations and whatever, and without getting into the real hippie airy-fairy shit about it, the biogeometry system deals with frequencies and octaves. And like in Qigong, we're working with the lower dantian and trying to store qi or increase the qi in lower dantian. It's one of the things. But I was kind of thinking, why would we do that in the body? And I'm still thinking about it. Like, it seems like obviously the body is there to help us map energetic structure or something. But I don't see that focusing on the body and what is said to be the physical location of the dantian or energy centers in the body. I mean, it seems like any other kind of projection. It seems like the long way around. So I was thinking, maybe it's more about resonance and accessing like a higher or a more subtle resonance of whatever lower dantian chi is. Just be in resonance, or have your lower dantian be in resonance with more chi. I don't know. It sounds wrong saying it out loud because it's not a tangible material thing. But as a principle, maybe we should be connecting with just higher resonances of the things that we think we want or need. Anyway. While going through your daily life and doing the dishes and taking a shit and whatever. Because there's meaning in those experiences. So there's no reason to avoid them. But like in biogeometry, they're talking about like higher resonance of a higher octave of ultraviolet, or higher octave of the frequency of water or gold. And that was what interested me in it. It's like, if there's repeating octaves, octaves that repeat the frequencies of things that we know or experience in the world, like wood, like gold or different metals, or blood, or things that are important to us, and everything else. There must be repeating frequencies in every octave from 0 to infinity. That like if you want to consider it a spiritual thing and not in terms of physics or energy or frequencies, then it's like the spiritual element of the mundane things that you have direct contact with here. But also, I think it's in blocking out those octaves, like not accessing and incorporating the higher octaves of those resonances in the universe could be what makes all our problems, like illnesses and frictions in relationships, because we become intent on this world, this octave or zone or framework or whatever you want to call it, to the extent that we're blocking out other frequencies or other things that we might need for a harmonious functioning of our world and our lives. And maybe it's hard for people to get into spiritual practice because they're only looking for benefits on kind of a mundane level. Like, I want to reduce stress, I want to have more energy, or like they're already sick and they want to heal their sickness. Which is kind of like I don't know, what is it? It's like a catch-22 or cop-out or something. Because it's like, it's almost like there's like nutrients that we can only get at a non-physical frequency. but we insist on trying to get everything out of material things. Like, I was following this guy for a while. I don't even know why. It was because I thought maybe he was better than me at something. And I thought I could learn to be what I'm not, lol. But like, he was like doing coaching for men. And he was like incorporating Qigong and this like Qigong theory and some theory about Qi into his coaching. But then he was like, these are the vitamins that I take. And like, these are the nutrients that I look for in my food and stuff. And it's not that those things are incompatible. But it seems inefficient or impractical to not explore the common root of them and kind of go directly for the root. You know, like, it must use more energy to have your fingers in a bunch of pies rather than the one pie. Or, you know, like the deeper you go, the more connected you are to more things. So it seems like a no-brainer to just be more connected. And like, actually I was thinking about this just last night, I think. Like, people, yeah, in this school that I'm kind of getting involved with at the moment, the kids are allowed to bring their games, like their Nintendo Switch, to school. Which the guy, my friend who has taken the school over, and I both are pretty hard against. But we're still in this transitional phase of moving it away from what the previous owner was doing. And so we're just, yeah, it's like, it's in a bit of a transitional phase. But, you know, like, some of the parents are like, you know, but if they're having a good time, then maybe it's worth it or whatever. And to a small degree, I agree. Like, I liked games when I was a kid. But I was like, you know, well, if they were smoking crack, would you say the same thing? But anyway, the point that I was actually getting at was that, you know, sometimes people don't want to let go of certain things, you know, attachments, because they think they're getting the thing that they're getting out of their thing. Whoa, great wording. You know, the fulfillment or nourishment that they're getting out of, say, video games or junk food or alcohol or whatever, cigarettes, you know. They're worried that they won't be able to get that thing without that object. But ultimately, I think the things that you really need in your life, you're able to get, and get more fuller versions of, when you let go of the attachment. Man, I should tell myself this about tea. Tea. It's my... yeah. It's like the baseline of my life. Good advice. But when you're able to loosen your perception, and with it your attachment to the form of things, then I think you allow for more range of input from the world. Or the universe. And in a way, yeah, like I was saying before, like the nourishment or the fulfillment or the stimulation or whatever that I think I'm getting from tea, or that you think you're getting from alcohol or cigarettes or drugs or sugar or whatever, is actually like a limited, if intensified, version of the fulfillment that you're actually looking for. But it's a bit of a leap of faith to be like, okay, I'm going to trust that there's more fulfillment without this thing that I know to give me some fulfillment. And I'm going to let it go just on the trust, the faith or belief in that possibility or theory. But you know, with everything I've given up so far, it's been true. So I stand by it. So anyway, take this as your invitation to play a little bit with how you perceive things, especially the things that you find difficult. You know, do you need to find them difficult? Do you need that structure or dynamic? And you know, if you look inward rather than looking outward when you are confronted with a difficult thing, what is the real root of that dynamic? Like, where's that dynamic really coming from? Because if you're wading through a river, that's difficult because the stream is going in a certain direction. But the direction that you're going in is the part making it difficult for you. Everything else is not difficult. The river itself is not difficult. But the angle you're taking, the approach that you're taking is what's making it difficult. And obviously it's not always practical to just flow on downstream and end up wherever you end up. But there is room to move in the dynamics that you have in your life. And you can occupy a different position. You know, like, I think a lot of things are actually about space. Like, the spaces we create and the dynamics we create are kind of the same thing. And if you, like, physically, or at least imagine physically, changing your location and kind of playing around with where you stand in relation to things, your sense of space changes. And you can even do it with no, outcome in mind. Just like if I'm in the garden, just walking around a flower or a tree or whatever, and just seeing what happens and seeing how it makes you feel on the inside can give you a sense of that kind of change of dynamic. And also, it's just makes life more fun. If you take it as, it doesn't have to be this way, it could be almost literally anyway. So how about I try it this way or that way? Or you don't have to know what outcome you're going for. You can literally play with the way you represent things to yourself. And then it's like your whole perception becomes an artwork, or a game, a video game, or a movie, or whatever. Yeah. So, it's been nice having tea with everyone again. Join me for tea again next time, Infinite Café. I think we're going to be alright. It's going to be alright.